I was obviously very ill, and my physical symptoms were dramatic.
It was moving and kind of spreading.
It wasn't just one place, and it looked mean. Definitely an emergency.
It was a serious illness. Physical dimension was worsening.
They didn't think she was going to be cured. What if she died, and what would life be without her?
I don't want anyone else projecting to me that I'm going to die.
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. Sometimes it takes a catastrophic event to disrupt the way we see our world, forcing us to question our assumptions and open our minds to new alternatives. When Bonnie Bell faced a life-threatening illness, she saw two roads down which she could journey. The first was well-traveled. Having worked in hospitals and with doctors, it was a road she knew well. It was the medical road. But something inside told her this path would lead into darkness. The road Bonnie chose was personal and self-guided, but she would be the first to tell you it was also frightening. On her journey, she met a remarkable physician, a healer trained in both Western and Eastern medicine. He helped guide her. And by integrating the best aspects of modern medicine and alternative healing, he brought about an astounding recovery few doctors would have thought possible.
Though I knew in my heart that I would recover, it was frightening.
I could see that she was in a lot of pain, and I could see that, to me, it felt like it was getting worse.
Usually when you see this as a conventional doctor, you tell yourself, this is never going to heal. I've never seen such a thing in my career, probably will not. Nobody has seen such a thing. It's really something you see once in your life, and you assume it will never heal. It can't heal.
She said that she wanted me to see it because she knew that I wouldn't freak out.
It was clear that she was gravely ill at that point. You know, I really had to ask her, do you want to live?
There's no way to tell what would have happened if I had sought medical help earlier. The truth is, the way I chose brought me into health.
Bonnie Bell grew up in Kansas City, where her parents were both social workers. Even as a little girl, Bonnie was drawn to the outdoors. Her home was planted as a show garden, and Bonnie developed a passion for flowers.
Maybe you could say I was a nature spirit by tendency. I was a person who just blossomed in the garden. At 13, I would say my spiritual search began. I was always fascinated with mythology, ancient history. I began to focus on really learning about what had come to the West from the East. But I studied all the world's traditions.
Bonnie's journey took her all around the world. In the Hawaiian Islands, she first became ill.
I got scratched by a cat and got in my bloodstream a mycobacteria that causes a disease that's called in the vernacular cat scratch fever.
Cat scratch fever is rarely a serious illness, but it can cause fatigue, fever, and infections of the lymphatic system. In Bonnie's case, the infection caused a swollen and painful lymph node under her jaw.
I knew what it was. I wasn't really concerned about it, but it got aggravated at some point, and I had outpatient surgery to remove the lump here.
For the next 9 years, from 1983 to 1992, Bonnie was symptom-free.
I didn't have any experience of any effect from it until 1992, when I developed a small lump in my left breast. I immediately went and got a mammogram, and it didn't show any problem. In fact, they called me back for a scan on the other breast. That was quite reassuring. Not only did they not find a problem with the one where I had the lump, they didn't want a second shot. I thought it was another expression of the cat scratch fever.
The mammogram ultimately seemed fine. The doctors said, we're not concerned about this. And she went to a couple of alternative practitioners that we knew, and they said, you're fine. And really, it kind of slipped out of our consciousness at that point. It wasn't something that we worried about or talked about.
I did alternative healing. I had chiropractors, I had an acupuncturist, I had people who were in touch with my system who did not give me the feedback that I was in trouble.
We would talk to our friend who was a doctor and check in with him periodically. And again, we were talking about the illness as cat scratch fever. He would talk to us about cat scratch fever. And no one was really talking about cancer.
In 1999, on my birthday, my 50th birthday, I noticed that the lump was getting bigger. I still didn't know if it was cat scratch fever or cancer.
She did not think it was cancer. She had cat scratch fever in her neck, so it looked similar, it acted similar, and so she felt that that's what it was again, and she wasn't worried.
Despite Bonnie's inner confidence, her condition continued to worsen.
The lump was getting larger and it was changing the shape of her breast. That was concerning to me. I was like, wow, okay, this is intense.
Visibly, the lump was growing, and I knew that it was a serious illness. It was visibly becoming more.
As her condition worsened, Bonnie withdrew to her isolated Northern California home, where she could focus on her personal healing, surrounded by nature. As part of her healing process, Bonnie and David began creating meditative artwork.
When David and I create our art, we start with scans of natural elements like flower petals, crystals, feathers, and rocks. We then use the computer as an artistic tool, like an artist uses a brush. We combine the digital elements to create collages, sometimes using sacred geometries and figures. We were incredibly productive. We made hundreds and hundreds of mandalas. If anything, it was as if a stream of energy was coming through. My art was incredibly important to my healing process. It gave me a reason to live. David and I would wake up sometimes in the night and say, are we doing the right thing? There was some sense of anguish, for sure.
There was a place in me that always had faith, but there were other places in me that would get alarmed. I never got to the place where I said, you've got to go to a doctor now, and overrode her intention. But there were lots of times that I wondered, are we doing the right thing?
What began as this lump had spread, and at that stage, I was really shocked at what she had gone through. For most people at that stage, I think we would have run to the doctor,
After 3 years of confronting her illness, Bonnie saw a clear sign that the path needed to change.
One night, my body spontaneously started shaking. I mean, really on and on.
She literally passed out in my arms, hit the floor, and that freaked me out.
Whatever fears and anxieties I had were literally being shaken loose from my body.
Bonnie was in bed and just shaking and vibrating, and I just got in with her, and there was a fear of what would be next.
My heart was racing. I was scared.
I was releasing the fear through that shaking. My body was shaking loose something that was in the way.
I actually talked to David, and I said, I think it's something else. I think that it might be breast cancer. And if we don't say anything or do something, we might lose her.
I thought, okay, I have to move out of the cocoon, and now is the time to seek medical help. I knew that I had cancer at that point.